Welcome to the BizGrowMojo podcast, the podcast where we get into real talk about business ownership, growth, marketing, learning lessons, and advice with real business owners. Here's your host, Ryan Amon. Now, let's get down to business.
I'm pumped to get this rolling. Let's go. From fine art to high-ticket campaigns for million-dollar companies, the power of premium direct mail marketing. Today we're talking with Abby Hosta, a young entrepreneur who's turned her artistic talents into a unique business solution. Abby helps high-ticket companies break through the noise with custom direct mail campaigns that combine hand-painted artwork with psychological marketing principles. We'll dive into how she's making junk mail not junk mail, her strategies for targeting million-dollar businesses, and why she believes the human touch is more valuable than ever in our AI-driven world. Plus, she shares the mindset shifts that helped her build a waiting list of clients and why being young became her biggest marketing advantage. Let's dive into it. Abby, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you doing, Ryan?
Good. Hey, appreciate you coming on board here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I got my podcast mic. Hopefully it's working.
Perfect. Sounds good. So we should be all set. Awesome. Well, let's just hop right into it, Abby. I appreciate you coming on to the podcast. I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about your story and what you do. Why don't we get started by just telling us a little bit about who you are and what your business does?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, so I started out, let me see, doing kind of professional fine art, especially very deep in the fine art world.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, well, I actually, through that, I really discovered my love for, marketing and business, all those things. And I just got so into it that I ended up getting a waiting list for a few months, actually, of people wanting me to do paintings of their pets or whatnot. And I'm like, whoa, okay, well, I know how to build a business, I know how to market, but I really want to create something that can last bigger than me and also that isn't reliant on me and one person being able to paint things and pictures and all those things. So I kind of, for sure, I moved towards sort of the more business route now, which is where I am now, of really just trying to use art as a means to increase business profits, essentially.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I was looking at your website a little bit. What inspired you to really start a business in art to begin with?
Oh yeah, well, that's a great question. I think, I mean, I would really say honestly, just people saying I can't do it because I feel like I'm a very stubborn person. So I like whenever somebody says you can't do it, I'm like, okay, well, I have to prove them wrong, of course. And even
Awesome.
for sure. And even like on a more societal level as well, like a lot of, women are sort of the minority in business. And I think one of my main kind of overall goals is to really encourage, especially minorities in business, because we see problems differently and we think differently. And even on a logical economic level, we're really able to bring in different solutions and really innovate in different ways that other people wouldn't have thought of.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. What were you doing before you started a business, with your painting and all that?
Yeah, so I mean, I really was just sort of painting. I mean, that's kind of been my whole life is just art and painting. Even like since I was a kid, I was just drawing.
What got you started, you know, in art and made you really want to pursue that into something bigger? Was there a moment where you're like, this is my thing. I'm going to turn this into something, or did it just kind of evolve into something where you were started making a little bit of money with it, and then it just grew from there?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, Ryan, but the first time you earn money, like as an individual person, just for you, like the money you earned, it feels amazing. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like it's almost such a high, I would say. And then like you keep trying to chase it because I mean it feels very different. I feel like if it comes from you and you did it, then
Especially with
somebody else.
something that, especially with something that you enjoy doing and you're passionate about, makes a big difference.
Oh yeah, I would say so for sure.
That's awesome. I can relate to that. I have a background in graphic design. That's kind of how I got into business, was starting with that. So I can appreciate, just that uh, the drive and the motivation from creating something, and how that feels to be able to turn it into something that makes money. It's pretty cool. So
Oh yeah.
how do you make money in your business? What do you charge for specifically?
Well, yes. So also to touch on your point, the passion here. There's a fly. It keeps getting in my camera, of course. Um, but I mean, touching on your point as well with the graphic design, I mean, I think it's important as well to really like encourage the arts and really make that a big part of business because especially if we're seeing AI, people are going more towards those standardized versions of AI and it's sort of taking the creativity out. But
Yeah.
what's interesting enough is there's actually a very tangible return on investment for human creativeness. Like they bring something to the table, not only for more of an ethical standpoint, but also sort of an oh gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. But
That's
but
okay.
even like economically, they do bring a different level that I
Yeah.
don't think AI can ever really replicate.
Yeah, I mean, AI, is kind of building off of what's out there, and, building off of human creativity, at least that's what a lot of people say. So yeah, it's like it needs human creativity to, work from to begin with. So yeah, I think there's always going to be a need and demand for human creativity. And I don't know about you, if how much you played with AI, but it can be difficult to prompt AI to get what you want out of it, whereas I feel like when you're working with a human being and you have, say you're having somebody create artwork, or, whatever it is, something creative, whether that's video, audio, printed materials, whatever it is, there's just a different factor when you can work with somebody and say, this is kind of what I'm thinking, and they can use their creativity to create that versus trying to prompt AI. Sometimes it does pretty good and it'll, do something that you want. But other times it's like you can prompt it to death and never get even close to what you're looking for. So, I don't know how far out we are from that not being a thing, but I've experienced a lot of frustration using AI, just trying to get it to do what I'm asking it to do. And you end up asking it 10 different ways, and sometimes it's just like, I'd be better off just to do this on my own because this is going nowhere,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
And
tell us a little bit about what you offer in your business. Like, I know you're making money through your artwork, but you combine some digital and printed things to create kind of a product out of that. Is that right?
yes. So essentially, I don't know how kind of sophisticated the viewers are over here, but if you are just starting out, it's extremely important and crucial to essentially find a problem and then find a way to fix that problem. And I think a lot of people, what they don't know about art is that it can solve a lot of problems in business that people are experiencing now. Like, for example, going back to the AI example and things like that, we're really seeing a resurgence of the need for human connection. So you can see it, online with brands acting as humans, kind of the user generated content you see out there. So people are really wanting to just connect with people. It's even a survival mechanism. So we're always sort of searching for that and we won't be truly fulfilled even at like, a biopsychological level, which is a fancy word. But I'm really ensuring that kind of gap is mainly what I help with because art it's just one of the most human things you could do and it connects people no matter where you're from, what you're doing, what language you speak. And businesses really can help from that because instead of, an email or something like that, if you send out, more meaningful art piece, that gets a completely different reaction from just, some words that people probably won't see and will forget. Like I'm pretty sure, let me see, I'm a little rusty. I should have looked at the statistics again, but I'm pretty sure it was around like a 30% increase of businesses who really like personalize their messaging, make it more meaningful that they have each year in revenue compared to those who don't.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah. So how do you help solve that problem in your business?
Yeah, so right now I actually just kind of launched this new service as well. I remember I was talking to you about that. I did have to put a waiting list now though because so many people wanted to try it, but I'm probably going to open it again once I sort of get down the scaling basics of that
Mm-hmm.
matter. But essentially, I'm sort of doing outreach campaigns. So usually the problems that I've noticed and that's another tip as well is really making sure, you're solving the biggest problem possible for the people who have the most money possible to pay
Yeah.
for it. And I solved the problem for myself because I realized, if you want to talk to these big company fancy executives of these big fancy companies, it's extremely difficult to reach them. And a lot of the means that which people do it now, for example, cold outreach, email, things like that, you really kind of get this negative connotation with a company because you're just usually as like this annoying person who's like disturbing their peace. So I sort of came up with this gifting strategy. So here I have this is what I'm working on for a marketing agency. So they're targeting HVAC companies at the moment since they're in their peak season. But I don't know if you can see it very well. I'm trying
Yeah.
to avoid the blurring. But essentially the goal is I don't know if you've seen Seth Godin's Purple Cow. Have you or
I've
read
heard of
it?
it. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead and, enlighten the audience because I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard of that.
Oh yeah, it's a great book. I was talking to somebody quite special to me on just, his marketing strategies as well. And I'm like, just read The Purple Cow because it's such a great book. But it really talks essentially about really making sure that your product is something that people want to talk about and it catches their eye and it's not something that just gets buried and it's especially vital now because we're just so overstimulated with everything 24/7 and it's like the bar is just getting higher and higher of what is holding people's attention. So my whole plan with the outreach strategy is to just get so much dopamine from when they open it that their brain is literally like forced to remember it differently and that they want to talk about it. And it's not just, a standard email. And it works really well for those higher up executives because their inboxes are flooded. They don't really go on online much. So the strategy is kind of like it puts their foot in the door without in like an annoying or pushy way, if that makes sense.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit more about how you kind of go about that. Are we talking about an email outreach campaign or a traditional mail campaign? And how do you go about, getting their attention once you get that to them?
Yes, so it's actually sort of a direct mail, sort of like a lumpy mail campaign. I know that's like the specific term for it,
Okay.
but essentially kind of using the reverse reciprocity, I think that's the word, of, kind of giving back so much that they want to, they're like, okay, they can't help but learn more about the company and all those things, which I think a lot of people are scared to do as well. Like just give a lot of value because they're like, oh, well, where's the return on investment in this? But we can see, like, I don't know if you've heard of Alex Ramosi, but some of the biggest players in business, they just give so much value and overwhelm their audience with so much value, and they don't even ask for anything back. And that kind of forces that person to want to learn more because people are always searching for, is this person trying to help me? Are they trying to hurt me? And that's one of my favorite hobbies as well, is you probably hear it throughout the podcast of really just understanding people at a psychological level because it plays so much into the marketing that we do. And a really good lesson that I learned, I'm sort of trailing off, but
No, you're okay.
is that people they're always trying to search for if somebody's a friend or a foe because if they didn't have that instinct, they probably would have died in the prehistoric times. So now people are still always searching for that. It's like, okay, are you trying to help me, or are you trying to take my money, or trying to do harm for me? So really ensuring you're giving that value and starting out with that value ensures you're off on the right foot and people aren't kind of suspicious, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So can you give us an example of how that translates into like the mail campaign? Like how do you provide that in those in that mail?
Yeah, so I think a really big part is like the handwritten element, the hand done elements. because we see there's a really big trend of using AI, scaling, all those things. So now, like, if you really lean into the exact opposite side, that's what's really going to stand out in people's minds because so many people now are kind of flocking towards those systematizations in their business. So, kind of really utilizing that personal human touch, if that makes sense. So, handwriting, adding little like embellishments like wax seals and doing the hand painted watercolor painting, it's really going to stand out in people's minds rather than just being another, automated AI text that people get.
Okay. So you've got like a hand painted element to the mailers that go out, and you're doing some cool things like the seals and that sort of thing. So are you like customizing a painting per campaign and then like printing it? Are you like you surely you're not painting in each individual mailer. That seems like that'd be really hard to scale.
Yes. So I am working on a scalability system and just really making sure, yeah, that it can be repeatable, but then it also has that human touch. And what's neat now, even though it seems like I am bashing AI a lot, it does make it easier to have that human touch at scale. So, for example, they actually have robots now that can like kind of mimic handwritten writing exactly, which is really neat. And just like they can research, they can kind of uncover sort of those deeper pain points in the company rather than you having to kind of like fish it out yourself. So really kind of relying on that, but then not also like completely straying away from being human, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I think so. So you're utilizing some like handwritten elements, and you're looking for ways to scale that, kind of combining, the hand touch with technology. That's really cool. Can you give us like an example of maybe, something that, one of the pieces you sent out, and kind of, break it down for the audience so they can hear like, so there's this part of it, that part of it, and really understand like your product better.
Yeah, of course. Well, I do want to be fair for my clients as well and just making sure because I came up with this very specific strategy and my goal is to not oversaturate it as much as I can.
Sure.
But breaking down the main points and sort of why they work, I think it's extremely important to, again, like I was saying, Seth Godin, purple cow, making sure you're not just another cow, you're a purple cow, like making sure every single element, and especially being extremely detail oriented, it has to be, wowing and eye catching. So, from the time they open the mailer to, the time they unbox it and they read it, everything has to be, the best it can be and just do something differently, if that makes sense. Because I mean, I think a lot of business owners, they're really terrified to just do something differently, kind of not follow the crowd. And when in reality, that's a even bigger risk because
Yeah.
then they're just going to be another person and nobody just wants to buy from another person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so it sounds like it's really custom for each client. Is that right? Kind of like what it is you're sending, and how you're going about it.
Yes. So I do that as well as sort of the customer retention side as well. So yeah, really just making sure everything is customized to them because since mainly the people I work with, they're selling very high ticket packages. So they really want to make sure, they aren't just another automated person and they really want to come across that they do care because their clients are so high value.
Yeah, yeah. So you're kind of combining art, handmade and handwritten things, and really like customizing mailers for your clients. And what industries do you typically work with the most, or is it just pretty wide open?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I would say a lot of marketing agencies and kind of the financial sectors as well, and mainly the consulting side. So kind of like finance, business consulting, and
Okay.
then marketing agencies are sort of my best people because
Okay.
they're really working closely with people and they're wanting to maintain that customer value as much as they can. So it's probably one of the best ROIs they can make specifically.
Okay. How big are like most of your campaigns that you do? Are they pretty small, like real tight knit, or are you doing, things where you're reaching out and sending something to, hundreds or thousands of people, or, where's kind of or maybe it's a range of all that?
Yes, so I am working with this marketing agency who wants to send at least, I think, 500
Okay.
mailers. So it can depend. That's sort of on the larger side, but my main area is to really just go more towards quality and then just spend a lot of time because I had a struggle as well, like the first few months of, like I was saying before, kind of falling into the crowd doing what everybody else is doing. But my main differentiator that I found is my art and really just going more of that quality direction because we don't really see that with the mailers. It's very like kind of mass produced. And my whole goal is to sort of do the opposite and to make junk mail not junk mail.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. So really getting into customizing mailing so that it's just really stands out and you're not just another, piece of paper flyer that somebody pulls out of their mailbox and tosses in the trash without looking at it. I like that. And that's really, I think, direct mail can be really effective. And it sounds like what you're doing here would really get somebody's attention, a lot more so than the typical. And you're really putting a lot of thought and energy and creativity into it. That's pretty cool. I like that. So what was some of the early wins or breakthroughs as you kind of got this business going, would you say?
Ooh, I mean, I would say I think it's especially important just to like just sit down and have a conversation with who you're targeting because I think like we have kind of these ideas of oh they would love this and then it just goes the completely opposite direction. But I think just really trying to understand who the best people are for you and what actually they do want because it might be completely different than what you do think. Like I at first I tried selling art, sort of like this art rental service with this big paintings. But I mean, maybe it could have worked very well, but this is just more what people sort of wanted, if that makes sense. And it's
Yeah,
especially important.
I think that's great advice. And I think it's something that people overlook a lot is actually talking to their target market, especially when they're formulating their plan and, going to start it. If it's possible to actually sit down and have some conversations and say, this is kind of what I'm looking to do. Is it something you're interested in? Because yeah, there's some things that you think you have a good target market and they're like, oh, I'm not really interested in that. And then, you might find something else that they are really interested in that works really well that could kind of change your direction and goal once you get into the weeds of it and actually know and talk to your demographic a little bit more. That's good advice. What's some of the challenges that you've faced, as you've gotten this going?
Yeah, I think sort of the same thing as well. Like I kind of just kept throwing things at the wall before I really kind of it clicked for me that oh I can just talk to these people and they kind of would let me know what's the most painful for them. And I've heard a lot of people say as well, like selling for you is very helpful too, because for example, if you're, I don't know, if you're like a gym business and then you make gym services for gym businesses, you're going to have a lot of an easier time because you know all the little details that people might not know of. So, and like I said before, that's sort of the name of the game is just really understanding your target market even better than they know themselves.
Yeah, yep, that's good advice. Um, have you found anything yet that's kind of helped you scale from, just getting going to being able to, maybe do it bigger? And maybe that's not even a goal. Maybe scaling doesn't really make sense. I think you touched on that. You're kind of trying to figure some stuff out, but I'm just curious. Have you found anything yet that's kind of helped you figure out how to scale?
I'd say specifically for new clients buys, really working on your offer and making sure it's like the most painful problem possible. It's not just sort of a nice to have. It's like I need to solve this problem in order to grow. It's not like, oh yeah, this is kind of nice. And then combining that as well, we making it as risk free as possible because we're very extremely risk averse as humans. And we poke at sort of small things that won't be a big deal and we make them a big deal. It's a survival mechanism as humans.
Yeah,
So really making sure that people do feel safe buying with you, even at like, that biological level, like I was saying, and making it just really stupid for them to not say yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can see how that, kind of figuring that out can help you just get more clients and make it easier to, keep building your business up if you get the right things in order to begin with. I like that. Have you found any marketing strategies yet that have, feel like are really working best at this point?
Ooh, I mean, I think going back, I think I keep referencing Seth's books, but um, because as you can see, I'm pretty young, and I realized like I kept trying to hide, that I was young and just sort of like kind of glazing over my age, things like that. And then I sort of started to do the opposite. So I would sort of lead with my age.
Yeah.
And so I would explain, of course, how I used all my time and my resources to acquire skills and buy other people's time so they could teach me all of their mistakes that they made over years, but also just making it sort of the forefront because people are going to notice it anyways, and really making sure that you're leading in the right people and sort of distancing the wrong people is extremely important and has worked very well for me because
Mm,
even, if I sort of please those people who don't think I could do much because of my age, they probably wouldn't buy from me anyways. And the people who do really buy from me don't really think age is a limiting factor. So it wouldn't really make sense to try to get everybody and just sort of have both people, but they're just kind of lukewarm, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You try to serve everybody and you end up serving nobody. So yeah, it's good to define that the strengths, the things that make you who you are, and use them as strengths instead of seeing the glass half empty side of it, and trying to avoid those things. Just leaning into them and making them and just owning it as part of what you do and who you are. So what have you found that's helped you gain clients at this point? Like what marketing tactics or channels have you found that have worked really well for you up to this point?
That's a good question. I would say I think LinkedIn is very helpful. It has been helpful for me of even just getting value, providing value, really making sure you're seen as that person who wants to help and not that person who wants to take. And like I was saying before, because people they only really trust people who know that, hey, they're gonna give me value, they're gonna help me. Because we're extremely risk averse and cautious as humans. So that's really helped me, as well as networking and really focusing, especially on like how, even because it shows up in your body language as well, of how I can help you and not just focusing on, okay, are they going to buy? Are they going to buy yet? Like, even if you help somebody and they don't end up buying, that's a total win because then they might tell somebody else, like, oh, so and so is really helpful. They might be able to help you too. And then you get a client. So I think that's been a really of a game changer mindset for me is just focusing on helping rather than like self serving.
Okay, and LinkedIn has been a pretty good place to do that. Yeah, do you have any specific strategies you've used that you feel like has really helped you get clients from LinkedIn or anything like that? Any particular methods of outreach or anything like that?
Or really just, like I said before, leaning into how I could help them first and not sort of trying to pitch slap them, but because I'm sure you get it too. Like you'll
Oh
connect
yeah.
with somebody. It's like, hey, I do websites. Here's my pricing. And I'm like, I just met you. So
Yeah, there's a lot of that on there for sure. Yeah.
for
Did you
sure.
did you make any marketing mistakes early on that you're like, oh, that was a complete waste of time? That's a good learning lesson there.
Oh, I'm really glad you asked that because I have. So I think one of the mistakes I used to make is kind of targeting people who weren't qualified for my offers, and I would just sort of target everybody and people who might not even be able to afford what I'm doing, and really like making sure I'm only sort of targeting and talking to people who sell very higher ticket packages who are doing having significant revenue already. rather than trying to kind of convince people who to give like half of their savings they have,
Yeah.
because it's a lot easier and to service wise as well, like post purchase, to have people who, have a lot of money, but then you're getting a little bit of it, than to have people with a little bit of money and they're giving like 90% of their money, because that's a lot of trust that they have to put in
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Finding people in that right buying stage. Yeah, that can be really important. Have you found any tools that you use at this point, or systems that, help keep things running smoothly and, just help you do things better in your business?
Ooh, I'd say Notion. Notion's been extremely helpful for me because you can customize it to whatever you want. So it can be a planner. I use it to sort of to track leads, or sort of as a CRM system where
Okay.
you could track different prospects and plan things, and that's been extremely helpful. But I mean, do you have any you would recommend for the viewers?
Oh, there's just so many tools out there. I mean, I use a lot of tools specific to marketing. Ahrefs is a great one because it can really help you, track things and dive into things. Um, yeah, I always recommend my clients use CallRail, um, because that's a really great way to be able to understand like where your calls are being generated from, so you can understand how your leads are coming in, what channels are actually leading to getting new leads to your website and that sort of thing. Of course, like Google Analytics and Search Console, and there's so many of them out there.
I might have to write that down myself because that sounds very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good to be able to track that website traffic and understand it better so you can, pivot, make changes, capitalize on other efforts that, might be working and, dump the ones that aren't.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about just being a business owner and what impact it's had on you. How has running and owning a business changed your life, do you feel?
Ooh. Oh gosh, you kind of put me on the spot. I gotta think for a little bit. I mean, I think it does really kind of challenge your mindsets and really show what you're made out of, because it can be extremely grueling at times. I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't know if you read Atomic Habits, but if you want to chase success and growth, there's going to be this big period where you don't have any whatsoever, and people really expect growth to kind of be like this linear line, when in reality it's like all this effort being stored up and then it just takes off last
Yeah,
minute when you're about to give up. And I think a lot of people are not ready for that, especially sort of with the instant gratification world that we're in.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can relate to that. Um, do you feel like you've achieved success in your business now, or what does that look like for you?
I mean, I think I would say so. I think so. I think once you get to the other side, like I was saying as well, of kind of the curve of, putting all this effort in and not seeing it. But once you get past that, it feels amazing. I cannot describe a better feeling than that.
Yeah, yeah. So how is like running a business? How do you feel like it's given you more freedoms and opportunities in your personal and professional life?
Oh yeah. I would say like it really pushed me to be a better person overall, because if you're not disciplined, if you don't have everything organized, then you probably have a very low success rate with business, just because there's so many things you have to keep track of, and you have to do it all yourself and hold yourself accountable. So it's really forced me to develop as a person, for sure. And wait, I don't know if I answered your full question.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. After having a business and doing what you're doing, would you go get a job? Would you ever consider that, or is this it? This is 100% for you.
I think this is it, personally.
I think most people feel that way once they start their own thing and get the ability to make decisions about their time and have a little bit more control over their money. I don't talk to very many people that say, "Yeah, I'm thinking about throwing this out and going back and getting a job." So, are there any ways that anybody can kind of determine if they're a good fit for your business? If they're wanting to, if they're considering doing the sort of thing you offer, who is a good fit for this?
Yeah. So for the outreach kind of offering campaign, in sort of the overall, I am very kind of selective about who I choose, because some people just starting out, those people aren't usually the right fit for me. And I know there are services that do fit them very well. But people who have more established companies, usually around like 3 or 4 years, doing like, $1 to $2 million in revenue at least, and have, especially the higher ticket packages are extremely compatible with my offering of, maybe even like $10,000 or more, or even a little bit less, but sort of towards that mark. Usually that's what I've seen the most return on investment for those companies, because they have sort of the sales processes down, and they're really just trying to maintain their customer value, and the customer value as much as they can.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. What's one tip you think every business owner or somebody considering starting a business should know?
I would say never give up, because like I was saying before, like there can be periods of time where you're putting everything in and you're not seeing it yet, but it's just being stored up for a later time, and it just goes like a rocket ship.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Would you do anything differently if you had to start over, um, from now versus when you first got your business going?
I think I would definitely try to not be vanilla ice cream, metaphorically, because we kind of fit and kind of make ourselves a little bit more bland, so we could please other people, when in reality those people that we're trying to please are probably not our ideal buyers anyways. So it doesn't really make sense why we should try to please people who aren't even going to do anything for us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it goes back to trying to be everything for everyone, and then you end up being nothing for anyone.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
any advice for like listeners that are wanting to do something similar to what you're doing, and utilize some sort of art, or something creative that they do to start a business?
We could always reach out to me personally. So my website is Abby's Artz. And oh gosh, I would say, like I said before, just really be yourself and don't give up, because there actually is a lot of sort of mental work and personal development work you have to do to be a successful entrepreneur. It's not just, getting orders and the very sort of businessy things.
Absolutely. Yep, 100% agree there. So where can people go then? You kind of mentioned it, but what's the exact address people can go to learn more about you and your business?
Yes. So it's just Abby's Arts. So there's not like a space or anything .com. And then my LinkedIn is Abby Hosta. I post tips and things like that as well on there, and just my experience and my journey, if people want to check that out.
Okay.
And those are my best sources, I would say.
Okay, awesome. Any final thoughts for the audience or anything? I think I've asked most questions I wanted to get into, and I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast. It's been really interesting to hear about how you've created something that you're passionate about and turned into a business, and you're making that a success story. It's really cool. So we really appreciate you coming on. Any final thoughts for the audience?
I think I said everything. I mean, if
Okay.
they want to talk to me as well, they have my website.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate it, Abby. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been really fun.
Thank you, Ryan. It was great being on here.
You've been listening to the BizGrowMojo podcast with Ryan Amon. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the BizGrowMojo podcast.